China says U.S. has illegally flown balloons over its airspace over 10 times since 2022. The United States has illegally flown its high-altitude balloons over Chinese airspace more than 10 times without Chinese authorities' approval since the beginning of last year, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said on Monday. It is not rare for U.S. balloons to enter the airspace of another country illegally, Wang told a regular press briefing in Beijing. The U.S. has also frequently sent warships and aircraft to conduct close-in reconnaissance on China, which undermines China's sovereignty, he said. The U.S. should change its way and do some soul-searching, instead of smearing or blaming the Chinese side, said Wang, in reference to Washington's recent claim about a Chinese spy balloon. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has repeatedly made clear that the entry of a Chinese civilian unmanned airship, which is for meteorological purposes, into U.S. airspace was due to force majeure and totally an accident. The world's largest spy network. At Monday's briefing, the Chinese spokesperson said that the U.S. has abused its technological advantages to carry out massive, indiscriminate wiretapping and stealing of secrets all over the world, including its allies, for a long time. In 2013, former U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, contractor Edward Snowden revealed that Washington had been spying on the email and cell phone communications of as many as 35 world leaders. And in May 2021, Denmark's national broadcaster DR News reported that the NSA purposefully obtained data and thus was able to spy on targeted heads of state, as well as neighboring Scandinavian leaders, top politicians, and high-ranking officials in Germany, Sweden, Norway, and France. In fact, the U.S. is the world's largest country in surveillance and reconnaissance, with the largest spy network in the world, said Wang. According to a report by Answer, a cybersecurity information platform, the NSA had remotely stolen more than 97 billion pieces of global internet data and 124 billion phone records in 30 days. Citing the report, Wang said that involved a huge number of citizens' privacy in different countries. He also said a U.S. sail drone found in Namibian territorial waters recently is seen by local media as an American spy drone. Who is the world's largest spying empire? The international community sees a clear answer, said Wang. More than 1 million vehicles had traveled on Cambodia's first-ever expressway connecting the capital Phnom Penh and the deep-sea port province of Pria Sihanouk in the first 3 months since its inauguration on October 1 last year. The 187 km long freeway, invested by the China Road and Bridge Corporation with $2 billion, is one of the results of cooperation between China and Cambodia under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. There's a proverb in Cambodia saying there is road, there is hope. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen once said China has built a lot of roads and bridges for Cambodia, so it means that China has built a lot of hope for the Cambodian people. Hun Sen visited China in February 2020, when the COVID-19 epidemic situation in the country was still grave. Recalling that meeting, Chinese President Xi Jinping Friday said the visit was a token of support and that Hun Sen stood firmly with the Chinese people in their fight against COVID-19. It gives me great pleasure to work with you to realize our 3-year appointment and open a new era of building a China-Cambodia community with a shared future at the start of spring, she told Hun Sen at the Diaoyutai State Guest House in Beijing. All-round cooperation. She pointed out that the two sides can build a cooperation framework in 6 major areas: politics, production capacity, agriculture, energy, security, and people-to-people and cultural exchanges. Hun Sen expressed his full agreement with the idea. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, Trade Pact and the China-Cambodia Free Trade Agreement, CFTA, entered into force on January 1, 2022. According to the Economic and Commercial Office of the Chinese Embassy to Cambodia, the trade volume between China and Cambodia hit $14.5 billion from January to November 2022, a year-on-year increase of 19.1%. On Friday, she stressed that China will also encourage more Chinese enterprises to invest in Cambodia, help in the construction of the Sihanoukville Special Economic Zone, and support building transportation infrastructure. As well as the expressway, China funded projects such as national roads, hospitals, rural road, and clean water supply, went into operation in Cambodia in 2022, and more agricultural products such as longan, corn, and pangasius gained official access to the Chinese market. Also, a team of traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, experts came to Cambodia last March to help the Southeast Asian nation fight the COVID-19 pandemic. As for people-to-people and cultural exchanges, she noted the Chinese side will give priority to restoring and increasing direct flights between China and Cambodia, encouraging tourism cooperation and carrying out cultural heritage protection and restoration work. China has helped restore ruined temples in the Angkor Archaeological Park since 1997 by successfully restoring the Chao Say Tavita Temple and the Ta Keo Temple. Development is not the prerogative of a few. During the meeting, the Chinese president also emphasized that development is not the prerogative of a few nations. The acts of engaging in rivalry of systems or ideological confrontation, politicizing, and weaponizing economic, trade, scientific and technological exchanges, forcing the decoupling and breaking of the chain, curbing and suppressing the development of other countries, and requiring countries in the region to choose sides, are all power politics and hegemonic practices, and can never be popular, said she. China stands on the right side of history and will resolutely safeguard national sovereignty, security, and development interests, as well as international fairness and justice, she vowed. Hun Sen said the China proposed BRI, the Global Development Initiative, GDI, and the Global Security Initiative, GSI, are of great significance to maintain world peace and promote common development, adding the Cambodian side will actively support and participate. Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Prak Sokhon has said the GDI is another public good that China provides to the rest of the world, adding it is crucial in supporting the least developed countries to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and reduce poverty. China and its strategic investment in China and all over the world with Greece, Portugal, combodia. China unveiled its No. 1 Central Document for 2023 on Monday, outlining 9 tasks in comprehensively promoting rural revitalization this year. China has invested a total of 21.5 trillion yuan, $3.15 trillion, in major projects to stabilize 2023's economic growth, Security Daily reported on Monday. As of February 12, a list of 7,652 investment projects worth 21.5 trillion yuan has been released in different parts of China. These projects cover diversified areas including infrastructure, artificial intelligence, information intelligence, and new materials. Shanghai has released 191 official major projects in 2023, involving a total investment of about 1.7 trillion yuan. Hebei and Shandong have 507 and 2002 projects worth 1.32 trillion yuan and 1.09 trillion yuan, respectively, in 2023. This year, Tianjin has 673 key projects with a total investment of 1.53 trillion yuan, and the proportion of investment in advanced manufacturing, technology, and industrial innovation has been lifted to 29.36%. The release of major projects with huge investment indicates that the local governments regard the projects as the driver and stabilizer of their economic development. They can provide solid support for overall economic performance to turn for the better throughout the year, said Song Xiangqing, Vice Dean of the School of Government at Beijing Normal University. Expanding investment remains key in stabilizing economic development this year, and the innovative government investment is expected to attract more market-oriented and socialized investment to join in. The industrial transformation will continue to be promoted, and the driving force of economic development will be strengthened by increasing investment, said Zhang Yukan, an expert in finance. As the first policy statement released by China's central authorities each year, the document is seen as an indicator of policy priorities. Work on agriculture and rural areas has been high on the agenda for 20 consecutive years since 2004. The document put emphasis on ensuring food security does not fall below baselines and ensuring there is no large-scale return to poverty. China has eradicated extreme poverty as planned in 2020, 10 years ahead of the schedule set in the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It also called for the pushing through key tasks including rural development, rural construction, rural governance, as well as speeding up the construction of a strong agricultural country. China's grain output has remained above 650 million tons for 8 consecutive years by 2022, while per capita disposable income of rural residents reached 20,133 yuan, $2,968 for the year, up by 4.2% in real terms, official data showed. The Lujiazui Financial City Council in Shanghai, China, and the Association of Banking and Financial Executives of Hellenic Shipping signed a strategic cooperation agreement on shipping finance during an online event held on Friday. Under the agreement, the two parties will establish a collaborative network to stimulate communication among shipping companies and financial institutions from both international shipping centers, speakers from both sides said. The signing of the agreement symbolizes the lasting collaboration and strong bond between the two maritime centers, said Kostas Katsafidoulis, Greece's Deputy Minister of Maritime Affairs and Insular Policy. Huang Hongyuan, representative of the Chairman Unit of the Lujiazui Financial City Council and Vice President of the Bank of Communications, signed the agreement in China, and George Zyrodakis, President of the Association of Banking and Financial Executives of Hellenic Shipping, in Greece. Huang said he was confident that through the agreement the two sides will be able to leverage complementary advantages and those provided by the Belt and Road Initiative to promote the two countries' collaboration in finance, trade, and other areas. He also mentioned the untapped potential in financial cooperation, saying that a China-Greece financial Silk Road will underpin the development of the shipping industry on both sides, as Shanghai offers a variety of financial products and services as an international financial hub. Zyrodakis said he hoped that a new era in the international shipping financial system has begun. First of the 18 set metro trains made by a Chinese company was delivered to the Porto Metro Company of Portugal on Saturday. The 4-car train is on display in the Trindade metro station at the center of Porto from Saturday till next Tuesday. The train assessed meets expectations of the public passengers of top quality, more security to advance more people to use the public transports, Portuguese Minister of Environment and Climate Action Duarte Cordeiro told Xinhua. The train was made by CRRC Tangshan, one of China's largest makers of trains, high-speed trains, and metro vehicles. It is an example of a train that is adapted to Porto Metro's assessments among passengers and workers, said Cordeiro, sitting down on the carriage's seats after visiting the train cab and trying the driver's seat. This vehicle is the prototype and serves as a reference, said Tiago Braga, president of the Porto Metro Company. The first train will start its service in May, after several trials and tests, and all the trains will be delivered by the end of September. Chinese ambassador to Portugal Zhao Bentang told Xinhua that the delivery of the metro trains made by CRRC Tangshan is an example that shows the strategic partnership between China and Portugal and the potential of the higher-level cooperation between the two countries. Portugal is the first European Union country to purchase made-in-China metro trains. Tan Mu, general manager of CRRC Tangshan, said that the new generation metro train, jointly designed by CRRC Tangshan and Porto Metro Company, adopts digital technology and has the characteristics of lightweight, low energy consumption and more digital intelligence. In accordance with the European standards, the new metro trains have a maximum circulation speed of 80 km per hour and capacity for 244 passengers, of which 64 are seated. With these new carriages, the Porto Metro network will have 120 vehicles. From Nord Stream to Syria sanction, U.S. interventions are damaging the world. The world is unsettled with earthquakes causing severe damage in Turkey and Syria, Pulitzer winner journalist Seymour Hersh disclosing that the U.S. Navy is behind the Nord Stream 2 pipeline explosion. and a Chinese airship's force majeure entry into U.S. airspace triggering another round of U.S. hostility against China. As of Monday, the death toll in Turkey and Syria caused by the earthquake on February 6 and its aftershocks has risen above 33,000. The U.S. on Thursday changed its policies, giving a 180-day exemption to its sanctions on Syria for all transactions related to earthquake relief efforts due to international pressure. However, the 72-hour golden window has long passed, and the 180-day exemption is hardly a respite compared to Syria's 12 years of suffering. U.S. sanctions on quake-stricken Syria aggravate the humanitarian crisis. On February 6, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck south-central Turkey near the Turkey-Syria border. In Syria, the disaster has left many people, who had already been displaced several times by a decade-old civil war, homeless yet again. Stephen Sahayunye, a Syrian-American freelance journalist and chief editor of Mideast Discourse, told CGTN that in Aleppo, 400,000 people lost their homes and that in Latakia City, where he lives, 150,000 people also lost their homes. People are dying in the hospitals and are injured because there is no medical service, and they cannot get any medicine. As I said before, Syria has had 12 years of war, so the medical system is very weak, Sahayunye said. According to China media groups, CMG, correspondent in Syria, U.S. sanctions are causing serious difficulties in the aftermath of the earthquake, most notably shortages of oil and diesel. The reporter said the Syrian government had been unable to secure any oil supplies since January, and it had to redistribute diesel fuel used for heating to heavy vehicles used for rescue after the earthquake. In addition, 70% of Syria's medical workers have fled the country because of years of fighting and sanctions. He said medicine and materials for medicine making cannot reach the epicenter due to U.S. sanctions. The U.S. has imposed sanctions on Syria since 1979 when the Syrian army got involved in Lebanon, and the U.S. designated it as a state sponsor of terrorism. In 2011, the U.S. government imposed additional sanctions on current Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government after mass protests erupted in the country, leading to an outbreak of civil war. Following the U.S., the European Council also imposed sanctions on Syria in 2011. Kevork Almasha, a political analyst on the YouTube channel Syriana Analysis who now lives in Berlin, said in many Western countries, "People don't realize that sanctions on Syria have blocked humanitarian aid and medicine and reconstruction materials to Syria as the governments here are in full control of the influential media outlet, and there is a united narrative when it comes to important issues, such as Syria, such as China, such as Russia, Ukraine, etc." Alena Duhan, an unappointed independent human rights expert, in November, presented detailed information on the catastrophic effects of sanctions on all aspects of life for the Syrian people following her 12-day visit to the country. She reported that 90% of Syria's population is currently living below the poverty line, pointing to their limited access to food, water, electricity, shelter, cooking and heating fuel, transportation, and healthcare. At the same time, blocking bank payments and refusing deliveries by foreign producers, coupled with sanctions-induced limited foreign currency reserves, have caused severe shortages in medicines and specialized medical equipment, particularly to treat chronic and rare diseases. The economic and financial sanctions imposed by the U.S. on other countries have seen exponential growth since the September 11th attacks. By the end of the fiscal year 2021, the U.S. has imposed sanctions on 9,421 entities and individuals, up 933% from 2000. The Donald Trump administration alone has imposed more than 3,900 sanctions, equivalent to 3 a day, according to the 2021 Sanctions Review report released by the U.S. Department of the Treasury in October 2021. U.S. Global Surveillance Network. Aside from draconian sanctions, U.S. interventions in other countries are also embodied in its mass surveillance of other countries. Recently, the U.S. accused China of spying on its country by letting a surveillance balloon fly into its airspace, which triggered the immediate delay of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to China despite the fact that China has repeatedly said it's a total accident and the airship is a civilian airship for meteorological purposes. The Chinese side also called on the U.S. to handle the accident in a cool-headed manner and not overreact, but the U.S. side eventually shot it down. U.S. officials also claimed on Wednesday that China, in this way, is collecting intelligence in more than 40 countries without giving any evidence. During Wednesday's news briefing, a reporter from Associated Press asked U.S. Department of State spokesperson Ned Price to give the other 39 names of these countries and how the U.S. government knows that the other 39 countries' airspace sovereignties are being violated if the U.S. is not spying on the 39 countries. Price refused to answer, saying giving out the sources will weaken our defenses against programs like this. However, more and more evidence shows that the U.S. government is the world's biggest surveillance body. In 2013, documents leaked by former contractor for the Central Intelligence Agency Edward Snowden revealed that the U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, was tracking online communication via major technology companies, including Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo. The surveillance program is known as PRISM. And Britain's electronic eavesdropping agency GCHQ was also tapping global communications and sharing the data with the NSA. The U.S. government not only spies on its people but also on other countries and world leaders. Snowden also disclosed that 38 embassies and missions have been targets of U.S. spying operations. Countries targeted included Belgium, France, Italy, Greece, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and Chile, as well as America's non-European allies such as Japan, South Korea, and India. The NSA had also monitored the phones of 35 world leaders, including then German Chancellor Angela Merkel. After fleeing to China's Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, HXR, Snowden told the South China Morning Post that the NSA also had hacking operations in Hong Kong and the Chinese mainland, saying targets in Hong Kong included the Chinese university, public officials, and businesses. Charles W. Freeman, a retired American diplomat who had served in the State and Defense Departments of the U.S., told CMG that he knows many people in the intelligence community, none of whom agree with the so-called balloon surveillance claim, and that the balloon hype is a small group of neoconservatives manufacturing evidence and falsely claiming that China is spying on the U.S. Collective silence of Western media on Nord Stream 2 pipeline explosion. Contrasting with the balloon hype, the recent breaking news by Seymour Hersh alleging that U.S. Navy divers laid bombs that destroyed the Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline under the Baltic Sea last September barely drew any attention. The U.S. mainstream media is keeping a collective silence on the astonishing disclosure, aligning themselves with the U.S. government on the issue. Hersh, a former New York Times and New Yorker reporter who won numerous awards for his investigative journalism, including the My Lai massacre of Vietnamese civilians by U.S. troops in 1968 and the 2004 Abu Ghraib scandal following the U.S. invasion of Iraq, cited an unnamed source reporting that the decision to bomb the pipelines was made in secret by U.S. President Joe Biden to cut off Moscow's ability to earn billions of dollars from natural gas sales to Europe. The U.S. believed that the pipelines gave Russia political leverage over Germany and Western Europe that could be used to weaken their commitment to Ukraine after the Russia-Ukraine conflict began, according to Hersh. The extent of the damage means the Nord Stream pipelines are unlikely to be able to carry any gas to Europe in the winter. Plunging Russian gas supplies have caused prices to soar in Europe, where countries have struggled to find alternative energy supplies to heat homes, generate electricity, and run factories. And the leak also worried environmentalists as the pipelines contained pressurized natural gas, the vast majority of which is methane. The escape of the greenhouse gas would also cause grave damage to the ozone layer and further impact global warming. CMG researched the number of reports on the Chinese balloon and Nord Stream pipeline explosion and found that there are over 10,825 reports about the Chinese balloon from Western media outlets from February 3 to 5, while there were only 552 reports from February 8 to 10 about Hersh's disclosure of Nord Stream 2 pipeline explosion. Also, compared with last September's reports when the pipeline explosion was first found, the largest daily number of reports on it surpassed 1,800 on September 29, while the largest daily number of reports on Hersh's latest disclosure barely reached 200 on February 8. Mainstream U.S. media has always claimed that they seek the truth, fairness, and balance in their reports, but sometimes, when it comes to things that matter, it seems that they tell the public nothing.